when the Great Pyramids of Egypt had started gathering the dust of time, and when the Roman Empire, mighty, had collapsed to become desolate ruins. Then at the far end of the South Pacific still existed a land, vast, completely silent, where never imprinted footprints of any human. That is the last land on this planet found by humanity. An isolated world, wrapped by winds, screaming, in snow mountain ranges, eternal, where nature had millions of years to freely develop, without having to suffer the brutal domination of humans. Welcome you to New Zealand, or also called by the ancient name, full of poetry, is Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud, where humans are just guests arriving last, tiptoeing into the sacred house of Mother Earth. Exactly that appearance, late, has shaped a living philosophy, unique, that nowhere in the world has. Here, humans are not considered owners or conquerors of nature, but are only Kaitiakitanga, guardians, hired by nature. In a moment, brief, of history, this thinking is strong, to the extent New Zealand has become the first nation, and only in the world, daring to grant human rights to a river and a mountain, allowing them to have legal personality, to stand up, to sue, and protect themselves before the court, if infringed upon by humans. But whether, amidst the turbulent flow of capitalism and economic greed, whether that sacred oath, protecting the earth, still keeps the original purity, or it is gradually becoming a flashy cover for the tourism industry and giant milk export. In the journey of special discovery, today, we will together walk on the fragile boundary between spirituality and reality to find the answer. First, in Part 1, The Ghost of the Past, we will turn back to the fateful meeting between Maori people and Europeans to see the collision, bloody, between the thinking, owning land, and the thinking, belonging to land. Next, in Part 2, The River Has a Soul, we will witness the legal revolution, shocking the globe, where a river is recognized as a living ancestor and has the right to be treated like a human. And finally, in Part 3, The Paradise Paradox, we will face the naked truth behind the slogan, 100% pure New Zealand. When economy and environment rush into the survival war, if you are ready to temporarily put aside the noises of the city and let your soul drift with white clouds on the sky of the southern hemisphere, please dedicate to this video a gentle like button right now. That will be the passport, most wonderful, for us to start the pilgrimage to the promised land, Aotearoa. Immediately, Part 1, Aotearoa, and the shadow of the Queen. The story of this land starts centuries ago, when giant wooden ships of the West appeared on the horizon. The Maori, the greatest navigators in human history, followed the light of the stars and the flow of the ocean to find this lonely island, where they call Aotearoa. To them, land is not a soulless asset to buy, sell, or subdivide, but is PAPATUANUKU. the Great Mother Earth, the place burying umbilical cords, and also the place keeping souls of ancestors. A Maori person never says, "I own this mountain," but they will bow head and say, "I belong to this mountain," because in their thinking, humans are just a tiny part of the ecosystem, born from Earth, and finally will return to Earth. However, that thousand-year peace shattered in the 19th century when Pakeha people, white people, brought along guns, Bibles, and especially the possessive thinking of colonialism, set foot on the coast. The collision between two worldviews, opposite to each other, reached the peak in 1840, when the Treaty of Waitangi was signed between the British Crown and over 500 Maori chiefs. This is considered the founding document of New Zealand, but simultaneously is also a historical trick, most painful due to language disagreement and political calculation. While the British believed that they had bought sovereignty supreme over the whole island, then Maori chiefs believed that they still kept CHIEFTAINSHIP and only allowed the British the right to manage order. That disastrous misunderstanding led to bloody wars, lasting throughout many decades later, when land of indigenous people was confiscated en masse under the name of the Queen. Losing land to Maori people was not only losing means of production, but was losing mana, authority, and sacred honor, making them become exiles right on their own homeland, taking over a century of persistent struggle in humiliation and tears. The modern New Zealand government just started the journey of difficult redemption, admitting mistakes in the past and trying to heal wounds by returning the position to indigenous culture exactly from that pain of extreme loss. The concept Kaitiakitanga truly rose up stronger than ever, like a reminder that no one has the right to own nature permanently, and every greedy appropriation will have to pay the price by the decline of humans themselves. You can use money to buy a certificate of land use right, but you can never buy the soul of the river, or the breath of the old forest. They exist independently and more eternally than any empire of humans. If one day a stranger comes to your house and claims they own the garden of your ancestors, just because they have a legal paper that you do not understand the language, will you choose to compromise to exist, or stand up to fight to protect heritage, even knowing the price to pay could be everything? Part 2. When the river is a human. From the piles of ashes of the wars to win land, a new mindset, and full of boldness, has germinated, changing completely the way the modern world perceives about the environment. In the year 2017, the New Zealand Parliament shocked the globe when passing a law unprecedented in Western legal history, recognizing Whanganui River, the third longest river and most sacred of Maori people, is a living entity, having full rights, obligations, and legal responsibilities equal to a human. This means that, according to the law of Aotearoa, harming the river is also synonymous with the ACT of harming a human, and the river completely can appoint representatives, to stand before court, to sue anyone daring to infringe upon the cleanliness of it. This is not a literary metaphor or a flowery word, but is the solemn acknowledgement towards the ancient philosophy of Maori people. Ko te awa. Ko te awa ko. I am the river, and the river is me. In this worldview, there is no clear separation between humans and nature. The blood flowing in the veins of ours is exactly the water flow flowing from upstream to the ocean, and the health of the river reflects directly the health of the community living beside it. This historic decision has ended the legal battle lasting over 140 years of local tribes, not to gain ownership right of the river, but to regain the right to consider the river is a living ancestor, needing to be respected and protected. If you also believe that nature is not an endless treasure for humans to arbitrarily exploit, but is a living entity, needing to be respected, like a soulmate, press the subscribe button. Subscribe channel right now. That small action of yours will be a commitment with our editorial team to spread these kind values. Go further. This concept is exactly the most perfect embodiment of Kaitiakitanga. Guardianship, far different from the conservation thinking of the West, inherently often separating humans out of nature to preserve wildness. Kaitiakitanga places humans in the center position of responsibility. We are not the rulers, standing above all species, nor are the outsiders, looking at nature from afar, but are the guardians, entrusted with the heavy responsibility to care for Mother Earth. Like the ACT, a child cares for parents, old and weak. This care does not originate from economic benefit or the compulsion of law, but originates from love and deep gratitude towards the source of life. When Whanganui River was granted human rights, it sent a powerful message to all humanity. True justice is not punishing the vandal, but is restoring the sacred relationship having been lost between humans and all things. We are often proud, being the superior species, having intelligence to transform nature, but true greatness lies in the ability to be humble, to bow head before the river, and admit that, if without water, human intelligence is also just dry dust. According to you, should Vietnam apply this legal thinking for Mekong River or Red River, granting them human rights to self-protect before pollution and indiscriminate sand mining? Or is that an idea too far-fetched? With economic development reality? Part 3. The Paradox of Paradise. However, the picture of Aotearoa will not be complete if we only immerse in legal legends, but forget the naked reality happening on the ground. The world knows New Zealand through the marketing campaign, most successful of all time, named 100% Pure New Zealand, a slogan etched into human mind, the image of a paradise, pristine, pure and perfect, to the surreal level, but for indigenous people, guarding the land, day and night. That purity sometimes is a sweet lie. covering environmental wounds, silently bleeding, under the weight of the modern economy, behind the green steps, stretching to the horizon, that tourists often marvel at. Few people know that those are actually artificial green deserts, where biodiversity is eliminated to make room for millions of dairy cows grazing every day. The dairy industry, or also called white gold, has brought huge prosperity for this nation, but the price to pay is tons of chemical fertilizers and nitrate waste seeping gradually into the ground, killing the rivers once considered sacred. This is exactly the paradox most painful of modern New Zealanders. How can they keep the Kaitiakitanga oath, protecting Mother Earth, when exactly their wealth depends on the fact exploiting mother's milk to the very end? That internal war takes place fiercely in every farm and every policy decision, when farmers must stand between two cruel choices: increase productivity to survive in the fierce global market, or accept sacrificing profit to return the cleanliness for the water flow. Exactly in this torn state, full of contradictions, we clearly see the real value of Kaitiakitanga philosophy. It is not a miracle, turning everything into paradise immediately, but is a moral compass, forcing humans to continuously question conscience, to know shame when hurting nature, and to tirelessly struggle to find back the lost balance between bottomless greed and eternal peace. Purity is not an eternal state, gifted ready, but is a fight, ceaseless, and the measure of civilization of a nation does not lie in the fact how rich they are, but lies in the fact they dare to sacrifice how many % of that wealth to keep the river flowing blue. Between one side is rapid economic development to become a superpower, and one side is accepting to live slower, a little poorer, but keeping gold forests, silver seas, for future descendants. If being a leader, which path will you bravely choose? Conclusion. The oracle from the river, the journey to find the solution for the troubled relationship between humans and nature at Aotearoa begs to close, but the questions that it poses will still echo forever, like the sound of waves hitting the rocky shore of pristine island bays. New Zealand, after all, is not a perfect paradise, flawless. It is still a nation struggling with scars of colonialism and the temptations of economic profit. But at least, at that end of the world, humans dared to be brave, admitting a truth that the rest of humanity is still deliberately avoiding, that we are not great as we still think. The biggest lesson from Kaitiakitanga is not reserved for Maori people, but is a common wake-up call for the entire species. We often give ourselves the right to decide fate of mountains and rivers, but forget that when this civilization collapses and vanishes into nothingness, those rivers will still continue to flow. Those mountains will still stand tall under the sunlight, cold and eternal. This earth never needed humans to be healed, but humans desperately need the earth to exist. Even just one more short day. Therefore, protecting the environment is not an act of granting favor of the strong, but as the act of begging for life. of the weak, before the great power of nature. If stories about the river having a soul, and the oath to protect the earth today, have awakened something sleeping in your consciousness, do not just stop at watching ACT by pressing strongly on the subscribe button. Subscribe and turn on notification bell. That is not just a simple follow, but is an affirmation that you are ready to join the community of guardians, people daring to change thinking, to create a green future and kinder. Do not forget to leave comments below about the next nation that you want us to decode together. Will that be the mystery of the icy land Iceland, or the paradoxical rise of the giant India? The right to decide lies in your hands. Thank you for spending precious time to ponder together about the position of humans amidst the vast universe. Wish you always find peace, like the gently flowing water in the soul. Hello and see you again at New Horizons.